Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. I am your host, Derek Marlin, and I'm excited for today's episode because it's going to be a blend of personal development and business strategy. When we first created this podcast, we were leaning into 75 to 80% real estate investment related content, but just because of my background and my passion, and I think it really helps people build their businesses, is we want personal development and we want business strategy. So let's jump right in. Welcome to Raising the Flipping Bar, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned real estate investors. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and I'm the CEO of Elevation. We're a real estate investment company based right here in Denver, Colorado. We'll dive into smart investment strategies, market insights, and essential tips for scaling your real estate ventures. Whether you're making your first investment or your 100th investment, this podcast is your blueprint for success in the ever-evolving world of real estate investing. Get ready to elevate your real estate game and begin your journey with me. So it's January, it's 2025. Happy New Year's to everybody. We all talk about New Year's resolutions, but today's episode actually is that I think New Year's resolutions are complete bullshit. So as we go today, I wanted to kick off today's episode with a story. And the other thing that people always do, which I think is actually a really good thing, obviously, is working on your health and fitness. You can't perform at a high level if you're always feeling run down, if you're always tired, if you're out of shape, if you're not eating well, you're not getting sleep, you're not doing fun things for your mental health. So I think all those are really, really important, but it kind of got me a little ticked off, and I shouldn't be, but I work out at Lifetime Fitness. And one of the cool things that they did that at first I was a little annoyed, but I actually think it's cool, is they sent out an email probably 3 months ago and literally said, we are taking no new members. And I was blown away. At first, I'm like, what business stops taking new revenue? But if you think about it from a gym perspective, I really appreciate that because it doesn't oversaturate your experience because it's not cheap there. And they've got a lot of really nice stuff. And so I thought that was cool. But working out in early January, you obviously have the people that are doing their New Year's resolutions. And I've categorized them into 3 very distinct buckets. And so you have the workout bros. Those are dudes that are back from college that are doing their weight training. And so if you want to do flat bench, good luck in January. You're not going to get on a bench. Then there are the Lulu ladies. Unfortunately, I think my daughters might fall into that bucket, but it's people that obviously have like insanely expensive workout gear. And a lot of them do work out hard, but a lot of them just have nice workout gear and they probably won't be there in February. And then there are what I call the focused few. And they're the people that we see them, we nod to each other at 5 or 6 a.m. You're still seeing them every Tuesday. It's the people that have been doing stuff all year anyways. And shout out to you men and women and folks out there that are doing that. The one beef that I have is please don't film yourself. Like, just get out of my way. Like it bothers me. There was 2 people just completely filming themselves. Like, okay, I get it if we're in Beverly Hills or Miami or something, but this is Denver. This is even worse. This is suburban Centennial, Colorado, Lifetime Fitness. Get over yourself. But I wanted to kick off today's episode in kind of a unique fashion in that working on health and fitness is really important. It's important to me. And I've had a crazy health journey. Some of you guys might not know this, but I've had a lot of back surgeries. And it's been really tough because I went from being a pretty decent athlete, even in middle age, and running Spartan races and running Tough Mudder races and really training with some elite level guys. Some of my buddies are former NFL players. There was one guy who did personal security for a very, very high level Hollywood star and dudes that are in the special forces. So like I'm at the bottom of that barrel. Let's just say that. And I'm trying to keep up with them. But in trying to figure out all these back problems, I came across a guy and his name is Dr. Nick Studholme. So shout out to Dr. Nick. And he has an amazing practice and it's chiropractic by nature. But what it really does is it's all about functional fitness. And so he's helped me a ton. And he has an email list and he sent this out and it caught my eye as like the perfect kickoff to today's episode. Again, about why New Year's resolutions I think are bullshit. And so these stats are from Dr. Nick. And I think they lean a little more into the health and fitness industry, but I think they're translatable across personal finance, personal development, family goals, business goals, wealth goals, all that stuff that people really resonate with this time of the year. And so he said 38.5% of adults actually set a New Year's resolution. And I actually thought that was kind of low. Of those, 23% quit after 1 week, and then 35% quit after 1 month. And again, I don't know exactly where he's getting his data from. So again, little asterisk in our show notes. But he said only 9% of people stick to their New Year's resolutions. And so that kind of stuck with me. I'm like, why is that the case? And so to put context and frame to it, and again, we'll wrap this all into real estate investing, but I think this is timely for this part of the year. What are the top 5 areas that people are setting these resolutions? And it was the same. I used chat to search a ton of different options and ton of different data, and it all came up the same from all different sources. It was exercise more. It was eat healthy. It was lose weight. And then it was save more and spend less. So those two things were bookended together. And then it was also quit smoking and drink less. With the 5 areas and the 5 key places that people are focusing on, okay, let's get back to brass tacks of, again, why do I think New Year's resolutions, they're bullshit? And to me, again, this might be an aggressive episode for people. And I'm right there with you. Like, I want to accomplish a lot in 2025. And I think Dr. Nick's facts, they're just a perfect example of why people actually don't succeed. So I want to dive into a little bit about, I think, what trips people up in setting New Year's resolutions, and then what we do. And again, what we're doing is not like life-changing or earth-shattering. A lot of people are doing it, but I do think it's applicable. So to me, the number one reason why people fall off that New Year's resolution wagon so fast is it's not tied to their why. It's a very specific number. Go back to my speeches and thoughts about Simon Sinek. It's not what you do or how you do it. It's why you do what you do. And so it was actually cool. I work with a nutritionist because I want to get into better shape and I want to keep improving. And so I knew that nutrition is a huge piece of the puzzle. And so it was cool. He said, rather than, well, how much weight do you want to lose, or give me a number, he really grilled me for the why. And part of my why was that I want to live to 100. And this is like this ridiculous thing that I have. My kids always laugh at me, but for whatever reason, I just have this number in my mind and I want to live well to 100. Like, I don't want to be limping to the finish line, if you will. So nutrition is super, super important. So that was the number one thing. And then he kept digging, and it's a little bit vain, but I want to look good on this podcast. I want to look decent speaking on stage. Like, I don't want to be this dude that's out of shape, because a lot of people, I think the way you do something means the way that you do everything. So those were some of my whys, and obviously being tied into my family, I want to just be as vibrant as I can for my wife and for my kids. And we got a lot going on. And so I'd also sadly have had a couple people in our sphere pass away, and they just didn't know that they had health ailments. And so for me, those are some of those whys that you really need to like anchor to, rather than just like, oh, I want to lose X number of pounds, or I want to do X number of wholesale deals, or I want to earn 7 figures or whatever. I think number one is you got to start with your why. Number two is I think that some people, they create too finite of goals. And so with that, again, not that you shouldn't do that, but to me, it goes back to like your business planning. You should have goals in what you're doing. We run everything through the Traction, or Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS for short. And so there's tons of very, very specific key metrics you're trying to hit. But if that's the only thing that you do, I think people get off track. The other thing is that people have a really hard time like getting back in the saddle. And so it's just this thing from, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that watch Yellowstone. Like, when people get bucked off their horse, they don't just like go next to the horse and walk the rest of the way. You get back in the saddle. Like, you have to just keep going. And I've been guilty of it myself too. And so from a nutrition standpoint, I try to have used to be one cheat weekend in my 20s, and I could still be in good shape. And then in my 30s, it was one cheat day. And now sadly, I'm in my 40s and it's one cheat meal a week. But if you go to a party and you fall off track and you have a couple cocktails and you have some pizza or whatever, okay, maybe not the best thing, but don't let that derail your entire week. Or maybe you have a really bad sales call with a seller and they tell you to F off. Like, you don't stop calling, you just keep going. So I think that people they don't get back in the saddle and they don't persevere. So I think that's another big thing that kind of trips people up. Something that I also think that I thought about was people don't have big enough goals. And Jim Collins, From Good to Great, his book he has what he calls BHAG, and it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. And you have to think big, because a lot of times if you're working towards those big, nasty goals, or some people would call them resolutions, and you don't hit it, but you come super, super far, you've made obviously amazing progress. But if it's just slightly improving, I don't know. I just don't think that does a lot for people. Dealing with hard money lenders is the biggest headache real estate investors have. I thought that's just how hard money had to be until I met Backflip. Backflip is changing the lending game by actually making loans stress-free. And I know this firsthand because I personally use them for my own deals. Let me tell you, their free app makes real estate investing effortless. With just a few taps, I can apply for loans tailored exactly to my needs, whether it's low interest rates, high leverage, or even deferred payments. The best part, I can secure financing in less than 2 weeks, making it easier to scale my business and close more profitable deals. But it doesn't stop there. Backflip instantly provides all the data I need to estimate profits, including a curated list of high-quality comps, saving me hours of work. Unlike other lenders who disappear after funding, Backflip is a true partner for elevation. Their team is always just a call away and ready to answer any questions and offer support. With Backflip, you get the data and the cash you need to jump on good investments quickly and with confidence. Click the link in the show notes to download the free app. Now let's get back to the show. Well, another thing that I think derails people in attaining their New Year's resolutions is you're not identifying what you're willing to give up. And this is something that really became poignant to me in working through a lot of Alex Hormozi's content. And for those of you that are out there, it'll be in the show notes. Look at Alex Hormozi's stuff. He's got an amazing social media and just general content presence. But a big thing that he hammers home is like everybody wants the thing, but they're not willing to identify, let alone follow through with what they're willing to give up. So to me, like a simple example is like, okay, great. You want to get in better shape, but are you willing to stop eating sugar or refined sugar or junk food or whatever else? Like you want to do a certain number of real estate deals, but are you willing to give up on wasting the first 2 hours every day just replying and checking email versus making cold calls the first part of every day? So it's all about what are you willing to give up? Maybe from a personal wealth perspective, you want that car that you're trying to afford, but like you're still going out to dinner 5 nights a week. Again, it's all about what are you willing to give up? 9 times out of 10, you can get there, but you got to give something up. And he also really hits home. You have to do it for an extended period of time. Just doing something, again, let's go back to the nutrition thing. And because it's such an easy thing and it's poignant for right now, is you're not going to get a 6-pack if you have one good week of nutrition and eating. If you have hopefully one good month and then one good year, yeah, you're going to be in really, really good shape. So it's all about what are you giving up and how long you're willing to commit to that goal. The other thing for me is a lot of people are worried about what other folks will think. And this is a really big one. We're going through a weird transition with, unfortunately, some friends that they're hitting their mid 40s to early 50s, and they're settling into kind of whatever their life might be. And they're not willing to take that next step. And so I get the feeling that they're just dragging you down with them. So you're worried about saying like, oh, well, this is my resolution is to have 7 figures, or it's to do a certain number of real estate transactions, or it's to get in phenomenal shape, or it's to hike 1014ers or whatever. Don't be worried about what other people are going to say about you. And if they're thinking that, then it's probably not people that you need to associate with yourself anyways. So again, that's a hard thing when you've got friends from 20, 30 years. But to me, like it is what it is. And again, it's also about comparing yourself to other people on social media. So to me, this is a slippery slope because you want to emulate and you want to follow what successful people are doing. Like they've created that roadmap. If you think back to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, it's having that mentor or being a part of a mastermind of like being with people that are already doing the thing. They've already got the goals that you're trying to achieve. But sometimes almost don't shoot so high or just don't let yourself get sucked in, which is easier said than done, of the person who's 20 years younger than you and is driving a Lamborghini and flying all over the place, wherever else. We all know that's just great content, but that might not be the way things actually are. So just try not to get sucked down by the social media machine and letting you get derailed. So where I want to transition with this is, okay, great. Dr. Nick gave us this good example of like why people have resolutions. We just outlined how they get derailed. But to me, it's what do we do instead? So instead of having resolutions, and this is something that I've started to do, I don't know, like probably over the past 3 or 4 years, is picking a word or a phrase and focusing on that. Because to me, you can apply that to everything that you do. And then if you have these different goals, especially as it relates to business, again, we go back to our vision traction organizer document. It's this 2-page document that's hyper focused even 10 years out. And then it gets more granular 3 years out. And then it gets super granular year 1 or the current year and even that quarter. So it's really about what phrase can I use to apply to all those different areas. So for 2025 with myself and our team at Elevation, it's about being intentional. And so I then now need to take my own medicine. So what am I willing to give up? And so I'll give you some tactical things that I'm doing, and then you guys can all hold me accountable when we interact and see one another. But something that I'm willing to give up, which sounds a little counterproductive because sometimes people say like, oh, you have to grind and you have to work 24/7. Where I went back and triaged over the last couple of weeks during the holidays is if I work super late, it totally tanks no matter how hard I try. And you can get away with 1 or 2 decent days, but like it tanks my productivity in the future. So for me, I actually set an alarm on my iPhone for 9 p.m. And so when that goes off, like I have to get ready to wind down. I have to get ready for bed. I know it's going to take me about a half an hour to make sure that the kids are dialed, even though I've got teenagers and they're self-contained and stuff, but to really get ready so that I can hopefully get in bed at 9:30 and hopefully be asleep between 9:30 and 10. Because what I realize is that what that does is if not, I'm trying to do, my wife Ann and I have office hours, which is fine once in a while at night because you want to work, then you want to spend time with the family. We try to have family dinners together because I actually love to cook. And then sadly, we end up doing work from like 8 to 10 and sometimes 11 p.m. And yeah, there are days when you're crunched and you have to do that. But for the most part, if I then stay up till 11 o'clock, then it's really hard for me to get good sleep. I then don't get a good workout in the morning. And then if I don't work out, then I'm probably crankier than I should be. And then I don't eat as well. And then I don't feel well. Like it, you can see things just cascade. And so to me, some of my non-negotiables and what I'm willing to give up is doing that last quote unquote 1 to 2 hours of work, because 95% of the time, I don't think it's going to matter the next day, but it's going to screw me for the rest of the week. So that's something that I'm really going to, again, being intentional about setting that alarm for 9 p.m. every night and sticking with it. So the other thing is I'm not going to give any resources, and I'm going to stay away from people that are Debbie Downers. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but to me, that just doesn't make any sense. I don't want people dragging me down. So I'm sadly going to give up some relationships of people that just were important to me. But if you can't bring value and be reciprocal, then I'm going to cut off that relationship. It's not worth it. And we're going to do the same thing for business. We've got some folks that we've worked with in the past, and we just realize all we're doing is giving and everything's being taken from us. It's not reciprocal. So I'm going to cut those people and those things out. The other thing is, and this is a hard one for me, I've got my business consultant, Doug Slaybaugh, with the CPA coach. Shout out, Doug. We've worked together and I've paid him some nice chunk of change to help me get rid of shiny object syndrome or theory, which is you've got a great idea. It's shiny. You want to be drawn to it, but it's not always the right time to execute that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to either postpone a couple of good ideas or good business opportunities, either indefinitely or at least into the future. And so something that we're leaning into is being really, really intentional. That's, again, my phrase. And so we're going to do this cool thing called More, Better, New. And it's something I talked about in a prior podcast, but we're going to do more of the thing. Then let's make it easy. Let's talk about cold calls. So we're going to make more cold calls to talk to motivated sellers and to talk to other investors. Then we're going to get better at that. And then maybe I'll do something new. But if I said, hey, Elevation's been thinking about launching a handyman service and an inspection division for other investors inspecting properties as investments. Cool idea, pretty vertically aligned, but it's something we're not even going to think about until 2026. So I'm going to have to postpone some good ideas. And with that kind of dovetails to, sounds weird, but one of my, again, things is being intentional about saying no more often in 2025. I went back and looked at my calendar. I reassessed where I spent my time, and I just said yes to too many things that weren't of the core mission of the company or didn't match my personal why. And it just got me off track. And then somehow it just sucked up a lot of time as well. So for me, it's all about saying no to certain things. And then I can pour into the people that I want to pour into and that give me energy and joy. And so to me, the last thing that I'm going to look back and do is just expect greatness from other people. And I know that seems pretty aggressive to some folks, but I'm doing it with my own family. I've got some kids that might want to play sports in college. It's what are you going to give up? And what do you have to commit to maybe doing that? Business associates, working with different people, like to me, I'm going to expect greatness because I know I'm pouring in as much as I can, and nobody's perfect. We're all going to make mistakes and not everything's going to go well all the time. But if we have that intentionality, again, for me, it's be intentional. It's something that to me, that's super, super important. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to hit on 2 or 3 more things. And so to me, it's also about using your measurement tool as looking back. I think a lot of times it's important. People set a New Year's resolution and it's all about forward progress. Don't get me wrong, that's important. But normally, if you look back, you'll realize how far you've actually come. So really don't forget to look back in your measurement tool. I think that's super important. Something I'm going to try that I've never done before, we're actually doing it right now with my family, is we're going to do a vision board. And so we're physically putting on poster board some of those things that we want to attain. And then I have to then back it up by doing the intentional things every day that can hopefully get me closer to those specific goals and things that we want to accomplish, whether it's family vacations or for us, a unique one is we've sent our son, our first kiddo, off to college. And I've seen what an amazing experience he just had in his first semester. And he's out of state in Washington. And so I want to be able to give my kids the opportunity to all go out of state. So I probably got to save a couple more bucks. Even though we started saving for college when they were 2, we got to do a couple more deals because I want to give them flexibility to come out of school without debt, to do it in a smart manner. And so it's just all about putting those things on a vision board for us. So we can check in later and see how that goes. And again, just I'm practicing it myself. Always get back on the horse. Just dust yourself off and just continue on. If you think about looking at it through your lens of what's your why first, I think you can accomplish so much in 2025. So what I would do is to give you guys some homework and some action steps is I would love to know what is your phrase or what is your word or what ethos you're going to live in 2025 that can check all those boxes. Again, not to say you shouldn't have a certain fitness level you want to hit or a certain number of deals you want to do or amount of money you want to save or hopefully amount of money you want to give to charity or number of volunteer hours or whatever else. But I think it's all about being intentional. And so hopefully this gives you some good motivation and some good ideas and thought generations to reach out to us and share what's your word or what's your phrase in 2025. So hopefully everybody's had some time to reflect over the holidays. I think that's the perfect time to do this. And again, I know it seemed a little aggressive. It's my inner Jersey coming out of why I think New Year's resolutions are total bullshit. But I think phrases and theories and philosophies are super, super important. So thanks for tuning into today's quick cast, if you will. Really appreciate you guys. Please connect with us and engage with us. Again, this doesn't work if we don't have two-way communication. I really appreciate you guys. Happy New Year's, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. If you found value in our insights and stories, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media and be sure to share this episode with friends or colleagues who might benefit. Your feedback and reviews help us grow and reach more listeners like you. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Thanks again to the Elevation Academy for sponsoring today's show. If you're interested in learning more, click the link in the show notes below. And remember, every property tells a story, every deal brings a lesson. Keep reaching for those goals, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening and watching Raising the Flipping Bar. Just a basic overall disclaimer is that A, this is not legal advice. B, this is not tax advice. C, this is not financial advice. I hope you get the gist, but I'm obviously not a lawyer, not a CPA. Hell, I'm not even a real estate agent, actually. But in general, we hope you get a ton of value out of this, but there is a bit of a disclaimer. Please consult a professional if you have any questions whatsoever.